Hello, welcome. We were just at the end of our session. Hello, just to put it into context, we are Generative Arts and Design Lab in Saarbrücken at the University of Fine Arts, and our focus this semester, which is today is the last session, was creating agents for creative use for designers and artists. So we had like our end presentation just before, and we were talking about artistic research in general. And we had really nice tools, developed nice tools like analyzing game agents, analyzing how to create product images using generative image tools, as well as like learning tools, as well as like assistant tools for organizing the financial part of the or the commercial part of the art sector. So this is just the background of what we were doing, and I think you can see me from the profile. So yeah, okay, and maybe just like about, or do you have like more some questions about us, or I will slowly go into introducing you as panelists. Maybe, yeah. Okay. I thought like just to as a structure for today, without any presentations, as you know, like ask for any like hard presentations or images, but more like the approaches. I wanted to ask each of you, as Nadia and Olha Sobetska and Vera van der Burg, to just like briefly introduce your research story, like how you arrived on your current research question, starting with your like in your first studies. So, what were your previous research questions to arrive where you are, and define maybe thereby your current research. Maybe Nadia, can you please start? Thank you.
Certainly, thank you. Hi, can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, I guess I think maybe I'll start in my PhD when I took a class on reinforcement learning. We were able to pick a topic on any topic we wanted to do our project on, and I have experience as a dancer, and so I was interested in whether reinforcement learning could be used to generate creative choreography. And so with that in mind, I started looking into what people knew about computational creativity, and I discovered that it is an extremely social thing. The way that we think about whether a dance is creative is incredibly social, and at the time, reinforcement learning was not especially social. It's becoming more so these days, but at that time it was difficult. And so after that first project, I spoke to the person who became my supervisor, and he suggested that I might also be interested in curiosity. And so from there, I started my PhD thesis work, which basically translates ideas from studies of curiosity across disciplines into machines. And I happen to have a friend who is an anthropologist and sociologist, and she was interested in this process that I was doing. And so together we decided to collaborate on a piece where we talked to other AI scientists who are doing the same kind of process to learn more about what they do, what happens when they look at these definitions of things like creativity or curiosity, and where it goes from there. And so that is part of the work that I wanted to talk about today. So maybe I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you. Vera, can you maybe continue to tell your story?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Check.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So I'm Vera. I currently just finished my PhD at the Technical University in Delft, but I think my practice is more practice-based research rather than research-based research. So I have a making practice, and I think where my research journey started was when I did my master's at the Design Academy, which is like a very much fine arts making school, where I started to kind of experiment with computer vision tools that were very small at the time and very, very, very like only GitHub accessible, kind of trying to poach your way through a lot of errors. And that was when I realized I was very interested by this technology, because you can teach them something about what the world looks like. And this to me was a very interesting thing, that you can just like find images and give them a name, and then the model says or believes whatever you say is in that data set. So that's how I got into the direction of, hey, can we actually use AI not necessarily to kind of automate or make stuff more efficient, but actually use that training process of a model as a reflective practice for a designer or a maker. And that idea, so AI for reflection, I developed in like a couple of projects over 6 years, where I would combine making, but also training the tool and also writing together to kind of develop a practice that I started to call the reflective AI design practice. Very shortly said.
Thank you very much. Olha, maybe can you also?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for introduction to the session and to the speakers. Very glad to be here. So I was doing both my bachelor and master in Leipzig in quantitative sociology, and this program it's called normal sociology, but it has a big quantitative program inside, and it taught me how social theories can be kind of integrated into methods, and we learned a lot of statistics and I learned machine learning and all of this, but it was always on examples of social theories. And so I was kind of forced to learn how to merge two universes, social science, like theory and methods together. And I became very fascinated with methods. And then I came to creativity from epistemological point of view, because I found that the phenomenon of rationality and irrationality was kind of treated not with respect for its fullest. So it was treated like mathematically, I would say. So what is rational, what is not. And by exploring what is irrationality, I actually understood that it's a great part of creativity, and that what is actually meant as something bad or like irrational is actually so human and gives us power to be creative, so to say, poetically saying. And so my next research interest became creativity, just because of that, just because I saw that methods treats rationality wrong, and I was not wrong, but not complete, and I was studying this phenomena, which led me naturally to creativity. And now I'm doing my PhD in also field of computational creativity, where I'm trying to find a unified mechanism informed by all disciplines who studied this phenomenon.
Thank you. So next, I want to again make a little round about your focus. Again, I want to explain it to our art and design research group. Like we are in Art University, maybe in a simpler and broader terms, very clearly, very to the point, maybe. And then I want I would ask you kindly if you can ask each other about each other's field, because this is kind of the aim of this transdisciplinary exchange. So I would like to ask you if you can ask each other questions. But first, maybe you can make a round just briefly for art students who are like very, very far away from the not very far away, but a little bit far away from the cognitive science and the computational creativity field, to explain your research focus again. Maybe Olha, you can make, and then we can make the round, other ways around.
Yeah, with pleasure, because I can ask many questions to both of speakers. I read a bit about area of each of you, and I'm Really, it was very interesting. And I first wanted to ask Nadia, because she's from the left part of me, about curiosity. So I know that when you're trying to translate, like give a definition of creativity or some other cognitive phenomena, which is abstract, you kind of make a reduction to the level of machines. So, and it's not bad, and sometimes it's full, but I wanted to ask you how difficult, how complex was this process from going of abstract image of what is curiosity to really give this definition to machines? How was this process?
Thank you. That's an interesting question. How difficult is this process? I think it is quite difficult, and I don't think that I've fully succeeded. But I do feel like I've gotten a lot of value out of the process. So I've been thinking about how we define it in, I guess, machine learning more generally, and I wasn't happy with it. And so I sought the other literature to think about it. And I do not like to talk about curiosity in like a single line definition. I don't feel comfortable with it. But I have begun to think about it in terms of important properties of curiosity and what we see behaviorally when we think about curiosity. And I think that that's, for me, a more fruitful way to think about it for machines, because I can think of things that I'm trying to get out of the machine rather than thinking about, I guess, a single line definition that probably loses far too much. And even a set of properties tends to lose probably quite a bit. But thank you for the question.
So you kind of you took the process of machine learning, and for the particular part you said, okay, this is what curiosity in machine could be based on your let's say image of definition of curiosity, not single line but in general. So you might kind of match. And so what exactly was this process in machine learning?
I guess I am a little bit more of a fascinated by multiple disciplines kind of person. So a lot of my work is far more in thinking about other disciplines and actually reading their work and how it fits together with machines. But the parts that have been more computational, I think that there's something about trying to make what I already know fit together with the things that I'm learning. And so one of the key properties I was interested in, for example, is voluntary exposure. So this idea that we choose to put ourselves in situations where we'll become curious, even though it can suck us away from things that might be more important, extrinsically important goals, and how we might actually learn this over time. And so what I ended up using is a slight modification of a very standard algorithm within reinforcement learning. But by making that slight modification, I can get behavior that causes the agent to actually start spending more time in places where it became curious before, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So you kind of translated curiosity in the like goal. So the from opposite basically. So you kind of say, okay, for machine computation, I say machines, but I mean any computational processes. So I don't want to. It sounds like without soul, machines have no soul, but so you kind of said that yes. So they can learn in a particular way if you put a goal. If you put curiosity as a goal, right? This is your point. Did I understand correctly?
We put curiosity as a goal
in the process, yeah, and then you kind of have this process of reinforcement learning. So it means that the goal is not anymore to task a particular task with a particular constraint, but it's like, okay, with curiosity, now I spend more time and I explore and make new connections because this is my goal basically right now. And I think this is what both humans and machines can do. So I'm just trying, like to imagine, because I never thought about it, that machines can be curious And so I'm just trying from your research and from your take to understand it. So yeah.
Well, one of the things that I haven't managed to do yet, but that I'm quite interested in, is thinking about how computationally we can think of known unknowns, essentially. So our ability to put together, I guess, descriptions of something that we know we do not know, and use that as a goal to learn something new. And I think that that is a fascinating thing that humans are able to do, but right now machines are not. And I haven't figured out how to do it, but it's part of my active research.
Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you very much. Can I also ask a question to Vera, or which?
Sure.
Vera, you mentioned that you had like 6 other projects, and this all project they were kind of derived from your one PhD project. You're muted.
There we go. Yeah. Continue. Sorry. From my basic project.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you have like 6 additional projects around your main topic, right? Did I understand correctly?
Well, it's more that I just did 5 projects. 5 or 6. I mean, one at my graduation project at the design academy. I don't really count it, but it was the start of it all. But I did 5 separate projects where I kind of did them intuitively. And that's also, I think, how I work as an artist, but also as a researcher, is that I kind of like do a lot of things and then just map out whatever I have laying there and try to find what is the common thread in all of these things, and kind of trust myself that there is a level of continuity and baseline that where I kind of have this research-oriented mind already in it. So I think the main project was very vague at the beginning. So especially when I started the PhD, it was like very like engineering orienting, like how can we use AI to help designers in the design process, dialoguing, and it was very vague. And it was before ChatGPT. It was in 2020, and we were working on social robots. Like how can you communicate with a social robot as part of a group discussion of designers, and then the robot knows when an idea is formed and when it's not, and he does that. The robot does it by analyzing design language. So to me, this was like, what is this about? But I did step into this topic, but that was because the idea of design dialogue I interpreted as dialoguing with every physical thing that a designer encounters, or not just actual dialogue, but like also dialoguing with materials, for example. And then I kind of diverged towards more practice-based research, because to me, researching design without doing actual design or doing an actual creative process is really difficult. Because I am a designer or an artist, I don't see a difference a lot between these two, but from practice. So that's why I did these projects, but I never really beforehand saw what they were really about. Just through doing them, like in every project, I went a step further. Like, hey. So the first project was like, okay, I want to train my own tool, and then hey, training your own tool actually is kind of this reflexive thing. Oh, what if we do it with 3 others? Or what if we do it with 7 others? But as a group, what if I use another material? Oh, what if I? And based on this like intuitive choosing of directions within the project, something bigger emerged, which became reflective AI. And that actually only happened during writing my dissertation. So it's a very bottom-up project, yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly my question, because I wanted to ask if they are all in separated disciplines, but actually they look like, step by step, like in the pyramid or something, like you're going step higher with every project, that they are not in different disciplines. Because first I thought that it's different disciplines, and you kind of found application of your idea in different, like things, but it actually seems like it's the opposite. It's kind of like the whole system was found, and I think that group practice is a very important point, which I think also connects all of us, because I think I also saw this recent study from neurobiology that your brains kind of sync in the group, and it boosts creativity. So when you work together, it gives a real big boost of creativity. And I think it's the same happens with curiosity, because when a person sitting near you, it's kind of forces you to ask new questions and to explore them together, and you feel somehow calmer, that you don't need to go through a complex process of getting some knowledge of connection alone, so you can rely on someone, if it's of course friendly group, let's say. And very how was this project on the group? So could you tell more about this, about the group connection, the group experiment? I assume it was.
Yeah, it was a workshop. And the workshop didn't really come from that I wanted to do a study. It just came because there was an opportunity to do the workshop with students from the Design Academy, which I really like, because these students tend to be very making oriented, and yeah, it's a particular kind of student. I mean, I've been to the school myself as well, so it was for me coming home. And we did a project before, and we wanted to we had the method of training an object detection model based on our subjective way of looking at data instead of objective, or whatever, that objective doesn't exist, but just to kind of say it like this. And we wanted to see what if we have a group of students do this? What would students do if they had to train their own model? So the whole setup of the workshop was, it's called Objective Portrait. There's a paper you can check with the scholar. It just was recently published for Kai in April. But it's where all the students trained their own object detection model based on their own research interests, or based on the project they were working on currently also in the Bachelor Studio. So we wanted to kind of link it with something they were already working on, so not something crazy outside, but something they were already trying to define. And they trained their own, and then they all trained their own model, but we created communal moments where they shared their process. And we kind of forced them, we planned those moments. So where if I would train my own tool, I would just the reflection would be in my own head. I think what was interesting with this workshop, where they would actually share what they had learned amongst each other, whereas the reflections also became kind of like a group therapy session, where they would think hey, I think about this word in this way, or so that was kind of the group effort that happened. And then we had a group exhibition at the end. I'm not sure if this is what you're hinting at, but I'm just going to explain how the group structure worked. And it was still quite individual projects. Very individual project, but because we did it together and it was kind of guided, I think people would also kind of learn from each other, and also see how everybody had the same methods. They all had to do data collection, they all had to do data annotation, and they all had to make an image for their object detection model to look at. But they all did it totally differently. So they all had a different angle, and they all had a different data set, they all had different words to annotate. And I think this opened up their way also of looking at AI technology in a more fundamental way, saying okay, it depends who trains the tools, what comes out, even though the tool is kind of the same. So this was for us that what the workshop format really helped in kind of creating students to really think through their own practice, hey, what is my practice actually about, or what am I thinking it, but also create a level of hands-on literacy about how AI tools actually work, without just prompting ChatGPT. They were actually going under the hood and getting some experience with what these tools actually contain of.
Before I say my comment, Nadia, do you want to say something to add?
Sure. I think that's incredibly cool. What a great idea. I think it's great to think about, I guess, how the tool gets shaped by the training process. And I think that one thing that we also tend to miss is that how the tool gets shaped by the people who are thinking up the algorithms as well. And I would love to think of ways that your artists could get involved in sort of bringing that to the forefront as well. The changes in the algorithms and how those are designed and how that affects it beyond how the training data affects it. It's an interesting thing for me to think about, so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, I wanted to add that I'm currently finishing my paper, I have a few days left. And so in this paper, I think this is the main part of my PhD, I was making a global review of every discipline which studies creativity, and I took psychology, neurobiology, semantics, and dynamical systems, like dynamical formalization, let's say so. And I really found a way how to theoretically, conceptually describe creativity using all of them. And the first component, which starts even before you're forced to perform a creative idea or creative outcome, it's what psychology tells us. It's personal traits and characteristics, and like your humor, your temperament, your level of openness and tolerance, and all of the things, they shape the way your, let's say, path of creativity will go in your mind. It shapes the way you will connect ideas, and you will, the way you will build them. And it's very interesting because, like, in the discussion, I said, yeah, I think it makes no sense to create, artificial creativity to mimic human creativity, because human creativity is an incredibly complex, dynamical process with so many components. But from this complex dynamic, you can actually make some good reduction and take only the components which are visible. And one of them, I said, if you want to, not said, but assumed, if you want to make a machine creative, you need to give it personal traits, and you need to give it like kind of own character, you know. And from psychology, we kind of know them, but I think it's kind of similar with what Vera said about group dynamics, where, you know, every person comes up with a particular structure, so that it follows my argument that if you want to make a creative machine, it should also have its own character and traits and experience and taste. Taste is very important. And it's interesting for me, you know, like that it's kind of has its application in real dynamics. Because me, for example, I think Nadia and Vera, they are both in applied creativity, in art, whereas I'm not at all, like zero. So I just read some papers about just performance in creativity because it's important, and I look at the mathematical formalization of this process, you know. So, and for this, my research on applied creativity ends. But of course, I know that it's a huge part. So, it's interesting that some intersection exists between my completely theoretical, you know, like frame, and then some applied processes, like in Vera's workshop and everything. So so it's really interesting. And sorry, Mert.
Should we continue like with the questions, asking questions? Like maybe Vera, would you like put some questions to Olya and Nadia? I think it's becoming a good dynamic. Therefore, maybe we can continue. Then I have some questions, and we have also, like, the group has also some questions.
I mean, I think I'm not as much as deep in creativity. I'm not a creativity researcher, even though I get the question about, were you more creative or not when you use this AI in this way? And I find it very difficult to answer this as a practitioner because I never really think about my creativity. That's why, I mean, in the first year of my PhD, I did try to go into the direction of creativity, but I got really lost because I just couldn't think about creativity in this, like, meta way, and also look at my own practice. But I'm very interested in people who do creativity research, and especially now, I was just wondering, because you probably are already in your research project, how did the rise of generative AI and large language models, but also image generators, and how people are adopting this, like, in practice, influence your way of thinking about what creativity actually is? did it change your way of thinking about the definition of creativity, for example, in your work, because all of a sudden a machine could do like a similar thing on the level of outputs? That was my question. You can both answer. Like, I don't, Nadia, maybe you can start.
I think it's a change probably, but it's such a gradual change over the last several years that it almost feels imperceptible. And I think that dance is one of those frontiers that is a little bit more challenging to tackle the same way that images and text have been. But I think it also does really push forward my idea that yes, our creativity is based in our background and experiences a great deal, and it changes what we see as creative. And I think that there's also the social component of things are creative when we agree that they are in a particular context. That still holds true with generative AI, and I don't think that's changed. How about you, Ola?
Yeah, I think that I don't know, I'm a bit snob about it, because for me it didn't change anything. Because generative AI, it just makes a great work of combinations of ideas which arise from data set. And I see it in a pure computational way. And because we, like, when human run creative process, they never know what is exactly the data set they use at this moment. And there are so many components which can use this data set at this particular moment: your mood, your environment, the task itself. So you never know. And I truly think that we don't really need creative machines, but we need machines who can support human creativity. And I think this is, for me, this is the right way to develop the technology and creativity. And what I was also thinking about is that to repeat these dynamics of human creativity, it costs a lot of energy for computers, and there is no need. The computers, they just need to know that the output they should give, if they ask to give a creative output, should be novel and useful. And they also need to have a really good data set to combine the new thing, which could be novel and useful, and also with some other traits. And in this way, I also don't really think that machines can be more creative than humans, not because humans are cooler or something, but because creativity is pretty, not chaotic, but pretty dynamical process. And we like humans may come up with a less creative solution than machines, but still it will be more creative because it went through this cognitive process. So yeah, answering the question, yeah, for me it didn't change. It's just another task for machines, and to ask them to give a creative output means to give an output which is useful and novel, compared to the data set they use. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's a bit too pessimistic.
Vera, do you have a follow-up question, like from this point, or?
I don't know. I have to think about it. I mean, I Ola, what you say, I get it. It's true. I agree also. Like, but if we look at what large language models now can do, I feel like there are obviously very interesting things, and they can come up with. And I don't think, yes, if you would compare a human and a model and say, okay, what is creativity? It's, yeah, I don't know if you do take that lens, but if we just look what happens in practice, that people use it as a way of doing something for them, and then they can generate output that is accepted in, I don't know, a level of the world or books or even invitations, then what does that say about creativity? Like, is it then something that we need to all together decide on what we find creative, or is it still, because I feel like people use it a lot and we just all accept it, and then it's like, okay, and there's a level of standards. I do feel whatever comes out of models degrades a standard of creative outputs. For some reason, we tend to be ashamed, but still, lots of people do it. And then I'm like, okay, what does that say in practice? Maybe even if the process is obviously different. I'm not sure if this is your field, but still, it's something maybe we can reflect on. Like, the process is different, creativity is something different, but people still use it to create things that ought to be creative outputs coming from a creative process. So, what do you think of that, for example? And it's not really a question, more like
it's a question for me.
Both.
Okay, Nadia, you can answer first.
What do I think of that? Well, I guess one of the things that came up in quite a few of our interviews was this kind of like this product versus process aspect, and I think that you're both quite aware of that. And I think that when we sort of fight like, the process wasn't creative and therefore the product isn't creative, or the product's creative, so what happened in the process doesn't matter. Maybe both of those things are correct in some sense. And I think that's okay. And maybe, I don't know, there was some interesting work at the International Conference on Computational Creativity that was arguing that the products are typically creative because they're generated in a co-creative process between a human and a machine, and the transitions that the human is making are influenced by those products that are produced by the generative AI, and in the end, they come together for something that is likely creative in a process point. But that's what I will say on that. How about you, Olha?
I think that I don't say that what machines produce is not creative, but it's machinery creative. And by that, I kind of stress the point that they didn't go through the process of human creativity. But that's why I said that you cannot call it the same, because it's not the same process. But still, the product, the result, can be creative. And also, it's a very good point of co-creation, because when you co-create with AI, even when I discuss my ideas, you discuss your idea with someone who have much bigger data set than you. And the machine can go through all this knowledge to give you a feedback which maybe even senior researchers wouldn't give you, But still it's from data point of view, And I think that it's still creative, but we should really not forget that it's not human creativity, that it's some other type of creativity which popped up, and they're different in their fingerprint. And thus, I just say about naming that it should be named like machinery creativity or like human-machine creativity or something. But I'm really a bit like strict about it, just because of the process itself. It's not just input, output. It's input and then 10 years of reflection, collecting patterns, emerging, then shaping idea, then giving up, then starting again, output. So I'm only point to this, that to this difference basically in naming. But of course they're creative. Like sometimes when I read what GPT gives, I'm just like, well, it took me 100 years to understand it, So of course they're creative. So, but not in the way humans are. And that's why I think we need to stop compete who is more creative, but just to admit that there are few types of creativity and put energy, effort, and fundings on developing each of them, And I also think that seeing how machines are creative can also boost our human creativity. We can think, because creativity is a skill for humans. It's really a skill. You can train it. Even though you are gifted or you have some talent, but it's still a skill. And seeing how machines are creative, you can also think, oh, okay, maybe I can also, use my own human creativity more.
Great. Let's continue also with Nadia's questions, and then maybe we can open up the discussion here. Nadia, would you?
Sure. One of the things that Olha raised was this idea of trying to elevate human creativity, I believe. And it made me think, I guess, Vera, you're the most, applying these things to creative works, I think, of the three of us. And I'm interested in what you think is maybe missing from present machines. I get the impression that you're quite able to adapt to what you have, but are there things that you kind of wish that machines had that would help you elevate your creativity, in your opinion?
Question for me, no? Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting you asked this because I'm a bit critical towards AI tools being things making my creativity better or more efficient or boosting. Like, these words to me, they seem like quite loaded with the idea that technology needs to solve something for us or needs to do something good for us. And in the work that I do, I kind of try to reject that idea, that it needs to do something, it needs to help me do something better that I might be able to do myself already through practice in my own life without technology, to talking to people or to get out of the comfort zone or la. So that's kind of the first response I always get to these questions. But I kind of try to find working with this technology, with AI tools or AI models or how you want to call it, in a way that it doesn't make me do anything better. or that's why the creative question to me is not a question that I'm exploring. It's more that, okay, how can I think about myself and see things that I maybe have not seen before through training my own tools or on something of myself. So it becomes a reflective practice. And reflection is maybe a part of creativity and knowing what you've done and why and how that maybe can influence your next step. But to me, I don't really want the tool to do that reflection for me or something, you know what I mean? So it's more of like a hybrid, kind of like, how would you say, without boundaries kind of interaction that I have with my tools. Like, I train the data, I collect the data, and then I train something, I make something, and then I kind of see like, okay, what's happening in this kind of strange interaction. Whereas I do feel that the way these tools are now being offered to us as consumers, as software users. The word user, I don't really like it, but ChatGPT operators, it kind of limits it, and we think it's not, because it's talking to us in a language we understand. It's talking to us in chat, and we are very good in chatting. I mean, we're chatting on our phones, we're chatting. So maybe we think that that's a nice fluid way of interacting with model, but it's still very one-directional through text. And it kind of obscures this whole world of whatever is behind, or it also has this false sense of certainty. It always gives you an answer, never says when it doesn't know, it's never uncertain, where I think being in uncertainty is a very important driver for my processes, like the not knowing, the friction and the failure. And sometimes if you use a large language model, you can just get an answer and you can say, hey, give me an answer to this problem, or hey, give me a direction for my projects, and then it gives you 6 directions. You could just choose one and do it. And to me, that's not how I enjoy my creative process. So it's a bit, maybe this doesn't really give you a definite answer, but what I could want from the tool, or maybe what I could want from the large language model tool that I see all people using, is just a bit more honesty about the not knowing, about when can you imagine a model saying, "Phew, gee, that's a good question, but I really don't really know. These answers I came up with, but I'm not sure if this is right based on my data." La, la, la. Like way more honesty about where the answer comes from. But they, for some reason, they don't do that. They say they do a different thing, and I feel that's maybe what I could want more from the tool, but that doesn't really come from the idea that I wanted that to boost my creativity, but just what I feel like technology could do in our lives. Yeah, that's my answer.
Yeah, I think that idea of boosting creativity, it has this kind of underlying idea that we could measure creativity, which I think is something that many computer scientists are drawn to, but I don't feel good about. And I think that I really appreciated that you did take it in the direction I wanted, which was things that are blockers about the existing technologies in your creative practice. Because I think that is a form of elevation that isn't about making you more creative, but it is a form of elevating that allows you to do the things that you want to do more effectively. And so I appreciate that a great deal. I hope it's okay if I ask a somewhat, it's definitely a curiosity question for Olja about your irrationality perspective on machine curiosity, and it's a little bit overly specific perhaps, because I've been thinking a lot about bounded rationality lately, and I was interested in this, whether this is something that you've thought about, whether bounded rationality could be enough for generating the type of irrationality that you care about, because I know that people suggest that bounded rationality allows this. Okay, I should talk about what bounded rationality is first for the group. Bounded rationality is this idea that we try to make our decisions as rationally as we possibly can, but we are within systems that have constraints. So we can't actually brute force an entire solution to something. And so that ends up with humans making decisions based on heuristics and biases that we know about. And I'm interested in whether you think that this computational approach to rationality is enough to give you the type of irrationality that you're interested in for creativity in machines.
Yeah, it's a great question. So I came up to Kahneman and Tversky Linda problem, as you know. So it asks scenario about woman Linda, 31 years old, bright, and she had measure I don't remember what. So, and then she's participating in anti-nuclear demonstrations. So some pieces of information about woman named Linda. So that's why it's called Linda problem. And participants should say what is more probable. A, that she's a feminist, B, that she is bank teller, and C, she's both feminist and bank teller. And most of people, 83% in the original paper, they answer a third option, so C, both. And in the view of Kahneman and Tversky, it's violation of probability theory, where conjunction of two events cannot be higher than probability of one event. And they call it irrational. So, and I always disagree with this idea, because I'm just like, wait a second, when they give you information about woman, your mind puts you in a real life scenario. You're trying to imagine this woman, and you kind of understand that she's bright, gives you kind of like, for example, intuition that she's like working hard, or like she's smart or something, so that she can combine being a bank teller and feminist, because she's also women anti-nuclear demonstration participant. So your brain make all these connections, and within this framework, it's rational that your brain is kind of like imagine that the person with this characteristic may have more than one type, but they call it violation, and basically this is what irrationality was called. And I found a very interesting study after that, like 20 years after, a group of researchers from Berlin actually, they did the same, but they asked they didn't ask what is more likely or probable. They say, what is the frequency, or like what is the probability? So they used some words which put respondents in the context of mathematics, of probability theory. And those who remember, right, theory of probability theory from schools, they knew that conjunction of two events cannot be higher than probability of one event. And so the original 83% dropped to 13. And it gives you an intuition that contextuality is very important for rationality or irrationality. And I didn't put it in my paper, but my main take was that irrationality doesn't exist. Kinda, in my mind, after all this research, I came up to this. And I understood that if something seems irrational for you, it means that you don't really see or understand the context in which your brain makes this decision, but it always makes rational decisions. So, and for example, when, you know, we also connect irrationality with emotions. When we commit some emotional act, we say it was irrational. He shouted at me, it was irrational. You know, he did this to me, it was irrational because actually he loved me or liked me. So we were like, wait a second. But the person who, let's say, shouted or make irrational emotional decision, he did it because it was his defense mechanism. It was, for him, it was rational act of emotionally save him. So, you know, you can always try to find the context why irrational behavior actually is rational. So, and I understood that jumping out of context or making new connections within the context is actually creativity. It's the first part. It's a necessary ingredient in creativity. When you make new connections which can be still suitable for the context of your task. So I hope I answered the question.
Thank you. It reminds me of Karim Barat, maybe you know her. She's like particle physicist, professor for particle physics, but also for feminist theory. And so I was watching recently her lecture, and she was also like many things which early particle quantum physicists called, like Feynman called strange and not possible, irrational, weird, were actually, she was talking about electron behaviors, were actually the normality of the electron behaving this way, and they were trying to rationalize it and put it to rational physics. So yeah, it just remembered me. Like, thank you. All my questions which I prepared were already answered or asked you, or I can derive them from the context. So therefore, I will directly open the discussion to the group. Possibly, like my questions were more derived for the research project I mentioned to you, where we were researching that the implications of AI, generative AI on the future of creativity or in our sector. So I would like to ask Samira.
I'm Mira. I'm studying product design. Hi. I would be interested in the negative aspects of AI. So one question that I had was maybe to Nadia or Olha, if you have any groundbreaking discoveries in your research, are you afraid that they could be used, if they are open source, that they could be used commercially for projects that you maybe wouldn't approve?
Nadia, you can answer first.
I feel like you gave me the floor last time. I think that is a reasonable concern. But I think I'm still so excited about the discovery of a better understanding something like curiosity, but it is a danger. We believe that curiosity killed the cat, and so is there a realm in which a commercial product using curiosity could be quite dangerous? And I think that is unfortunately possible, but I think that we can get a lot of benefit out of better understanding curiosity as well. And I have to, I at this point, I'm really more working on understanding than I am on working on something that I believe could be usable. And so I think that it's a question for the future, hopefully. But I know that's a dangerous response to have. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I had this concern, and then I understood that it's still collective mind, and if someone will take my idea in an appropriate way, but it can also help develop it to a higher level, which I alone couldn't do that. So I kind of have no particular position about it. It wouldn't be pleasant for me at the first place, but then if it would run commercially and somehow used, it also kind of natural development of my idea. So I kind of like to cite about it.
Can we also ask that, Vera, would you like to also answer this question? Because it can be also
So the question was if I'm afraid that the way I work will be used commercially?
In a way which could be harmful, right? Or what you use?
Harmful?
Yeah, in any way you would not approve or find maybe destructive or dangerous or...
I mean, of course. I think that's always possible. The danger is there, but there are a couple of layers of answers I can give practically on how I work. So everything I do is locally. So the models that I use are used for myself and myself only, and I don't have an intent to share that with anyone unless if someone hacks my computer, they could maybe get my clay model. So I train models on my own work. So I have models of my own ceramic work, for example. Yeah, they could use it and sell it and la. So that's one level. Yeah, that's kind of dangerous. Then the commercial aspect, there are already. There was actually a couple of years ago, there was this company called Exactly AI, which was basically a commercial in
I know that.
a commercial interpretation of what I do, where they was like, hey, train your own model on your own work, and you could actually deliver your own data set of work, and then they would train it on the cloud, and then you have your own model, and then you could use it. Google bought it after a year because they thought, hey, something interesting is happening. Midjourney has like self fine-tuning kind of not really training, but prompting in your own style kind of options. So there are kind of parallels to what I'm doing, but still, if the idea is efficient working, if the training process is not highlighted as important as I do in my own practice, to me, it's still the same. It still comes from the same optimization idea. So yes, I feel like definitely there will be parts of the way that I think or work that they will adopt. Obviously, it's very popular now to think about how can we use AI to think deeper. And I still think that's true and it's important. And I actually kind of enjoy that people are actually going into that route and are realizing knowingly adopting these tools in your practice can be very dangerous, especially if you look, for example, at students. If you look at young people who cannot write anymore, students who don't want to write anymore. So there's all these aspects to it. But I also would like to refer to the past. How I learned how to work with models was because the whole coding community was open source. And that was the point. The whole point was, hey, I made this piece of code, it can do this thing, I put it online, I open it up to the community for others to build upon. The whole mentality was different. The moment they were able to make money, they closed it. And I think there, obviously, we can talk about capitalism, we can talk about big tech a lot. I'm happy that we kind of didn't, because but in the end, you always end up there, I feel, is the moment you can sell something, you close down your method or your recipe. Whereas I feel if someone enjoys my methods, which I also try to kind of put into my thesis, like, hey, it's a transferable method. I would love to see artists training their own tools according to their own values or according to their own data or their own standards of how they would use this. To actually go for it, take my model, use it, adapt it, and share with me how you did it. So maybe it's a utopian idea that doesn't really exist anymore in this world, but I would love to go there. So sharing is not necessarily a bad thing. What is bad is scraping data from people who cannot consent or opt out. What is bad is using click workers who have to like train these tools for us to use it more conveniently, and they are being underpaid. But it's such a big thing, and we can talk about it forever, about the badness about it. I think the goal is to make stuff more specific. And so I hope my answer kind of shows how many layers of answers you can give to a question like this. And I feel that for the future, we should be able to kind of be aware of that. And there's so many specific things we can focus on. I mean, I would love to see a research group working specifically only on how to use credited content in an image model. You can do 10 years of research in this, I think. And then we are there, instead of saying, we want ethical AI. And then that must encompass environmental issues, it must encompass bias, it must be credits content, it must be the optimization paradox. It's too big. So this is kind of my answer to your question. It's kind of like opening up or kind of the way you can think about like what is bad about sharing your work or your tools.
Thank you. I mean, we really are to 1 hour. I would like to ask you if there is like somebody from the group who is like have really one question which was asked, maybe if it would be okay to stretch, but I don't see that. I think we really covered so a lot of topics, and I'm also very happy that we didn't go to big tech, that they're already taking so much space in our life, so that we didn't go into this. So if
but
you have,
I also
yeah,
would
please.
like to say if other participants, because here's also Martin and Juliana and Jeanette, hello. If at least from my side, if you will have any questions, because sometimes you have questions after session. You can email me if you have any questions, if they will pop up later.
Martin?
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to say thank you, and that's a very good idea, and I might get back to that offer.
Sure, with pleasure.
Yeah, Martin is next semester our guest professor for sound art, and he's also working closely with generative AI in music, and we also did some projects together. Okay, so then let's wrap up, and I will send you maybe the record before I am publishing on YouTube, and also with we will proceed with the administrative part through the email. Thank you very much. So this was a really fruitful discussion, and this was very helpful for our research, and I hope for yours too.
Yes,
Thank you so much. It was a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful day.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.